welcome back to Welsh Wargaming. Today I'm going to do a bit of an unboxing of the Warlord Games Char B1. We'll have a little bit of a chat about the actual tank in the game, and we'll have a look at the story about Pierre Billot, who was a French tank commander in World War II, well the beginning of World War II. We don't really hear much about French tank aces, but his story about his tank and his platoon in a place called Ston in France is pretty good, and it's a bit of a change from the old Panzer aces, I suppose. So yeah, so let's get into it. So I'll give this an open, and then we'll have a look at the actual model itself, and then we'll have a little chat. So I'll just open him up. I bought a couple of these to make a French tank platoon for some early tank wars. For some reason I've got like 4 Panzer IIs and a couple of Panzer IIIs. I should have taken the plastic off before I started. Now I have cheated a little bit because I've already made one. So you get your usual cards. And I think I'm sure this kit comes with, you can make 2 different versions or 3 different versions. Basically the French tank, or you can make it into the German equivalent. I think it's a fling tank, yeah, Flampanzer B2F. So if you have got an early war German army, that could be pretty cool. But I'm going for the French tank. When I was reading on this story, it inspired me to get some French tanks, and lucky enough, the actual, I don't think you might not be able to see it. See that there? That was the name of the French tank which Billot was commanding on that day, which we're going to have a little bit of a talk about, and I'll read you a little bit of the story. Oh. You know what damage markers? Gathering up quite a bit of these now, to be honest with you. Yep, that's it. It's a nice box as well. I like the front cover. Let's tilt it up a little bit. We have an advert from artillery. The instruction book, which is quite nice, really. The usual gives you a little bit of how-to on playing transfers, which could always be handy if you've never done it before. Pretty simple instructions. Some paint schemes. There she is, look. That's the one there. I put it in a translator, and it's French for had. So if you put Billot or below into it, is B-I-L-L-O-T-T-E. It translates to chopping block, which I thought was quite funny. So it tells you the colours as well to use for it. These are painted really nice. These are. I love that one. I like the man hanging out the back as well. But this is the one I'll be doing, or sort of. I might not be able to get it perfect like that. So gives you the German versions as well. They're all the bits to make these German versions in the kit. I think there's one piece you need from. I've got a feeling it was the Panzer 1 or the Panzer 2. I think it was the Panzer 2. Something to do with a turret, if I can remember correct. I can't find it now. Yeah, no. Pretty good. Nice little kit. And the actual tank himself. All the bits and pieces. Pretty much a bog standard tank kit. I think that's the French commander, because they got the old top hatch, and then the French commander can eye out the back. I love the Char B1. It's such a cool looking tank. I got a thing for the early war tanks. I don't know what it's about, to be honest with you. But I have cheated a little bit because I've already pulled them together and I've undercoated him. So, and I've started drawing the camo pattern on in pencil so I can follow it then with the paint. I've decided to have a commander hanging out the back. This is not going to be Bilos's tank. I'm going to do a bit more research and see if I can find the names of the other tanks in the platoon, and I'll name them, or try and find out. Should be able to. But this build's a bit tricky. Getting this to stay in there, gluing the bits together, and I'm making it so it doesn't stick so we can glue up and down. Usually I'm not that bothered, but I tried it. This, I couldn't get this bit to do it. Yeah, it's a nice tank, nice kit as well. I really like to put it together. It's quite easy if you follow instructions. So yeah, so that's the tank model. So in the actual game itself, the Char B1, well, the Char B1 and the Char B1 BIS. The BIS had a little bit more armour, but you can buy it inexperienced for 196 points, regular for 245 points, or veteran for 294 points. It comes with one turret mounted light anti-tank gun with a coaxial MMG, and one forward facing hull mounted light howitzer, and one forward facing hull mounted MMG. So it's pretty fired up. Got some good weapons on it, some options and stuff, which a couple of machine guns, which could be handy. Some special rules, mind. One man turret. So it says in the rule book, combining the roles of commander, gunner and loader and squeezing the unfortunate fellow into a tiny one-man turret means it's hard to do different things at once. To represent this, it is always necessary to make an order test when issued an advance order, even if the tank is not pinned. So that's a bit of a downside. There's another one, armoured all round. So the Char B1 was almost as heavily armoured at the sides and the rear as at the front. So no modifiers apply for the penetration when shooting at the sides, rear or from above. All shots count the full armour value, which is also nice, and it's slow. So it's got a couple of drawbacks. So you've got to take an order test whenever you want to advance, which can be a little bit of a pain. But to take your veteran, it's nearly 300 points, which is quite a lot. So all that all-round armour is good, mind, because you're probably going to be caught in the flanks and the rear because it's quite slow. But use some see. So his main enemy would have been the Panzer III and the Panzer II. So if you compare him to the Panzer III, which would be the early war version of the Panzer III, a regular Panzer III is 135 points. So if you take a veteran Char B1, you can get 2 Panzer IIIs. So that's where all that all-round armour is going to come in handy, because they're going to be able to try. They're going to, if your enemy doesn't know, or your opponent doesn't know about that, they're going to be trying to get around the back of you and on the side. Probably split the tanks up to sort of flank you, but it won't really matter in this. So that's all good. So yeah, so the Panzer II shouldn't be much of a problem towards it. Panzer II's 105 points regular with a sort of light autocannon. So I think it'd be a pretty fun game. A couple of these Char B1s running around with some Panzer IIIs and IIs chasing him, which I'm looking forward to doing that, to be honest with you. So that's it in the rule book. So what you do now is I'll tell you a little bit of the story behind Pierre Bilos's Char B1. So I'm not going to read it all through because it is pretty long, but I'll just read you the first part. So at 5 o'clock in the morning on May the 16th, 1940, a company of the 8th Panzer Regiment lay in an ambush position alongside a rubble-strewn street of the French town of Stone. The day before, the unfortunate village had changed hands several times as French troops attempted to stem the tide of German armour headed toward the English Channel, threatening to trap the Allied forces in Belgium. 3 squadrons of Stuka dive bombers ravaged on, as well as both French and German artillery. That morning, the Panzer III's and 4D's then the best tanks in German service deployed to stave off a French counterattack. Suddenly, a squat green tank lumbered around a street block directly before of the German unit. This was a 31.5-ton Char B1 BIS tank commanded by Captain Pierre Belot. His driver, Sergeant Duru, triggered the 75mm howitzer fixed in a front hull roared, smashing the Panzer III to the rear of the column. At the same time, Belot swiveled a smaller 47mm high-velocity cannon in a turret and picked off the lead tank a mere 30 metres away. The Rex trapped the Panzer coming in a head-to-head confrontation with the Gaelic behemoth. 37mm rounds cracked from the long barrels of Panzer III tanks and ricocheted off Ear's turret. Low-velocity 75mm shells made battle thuds as they spat out the stubby guns of Panzer IV tanks, only to shatter in clouds of shrapnel against the French tanks' glasses. More than 140 shells cratered Ear's armour, but none penetrated. Below, coolly blasted one Panzer after another. Once he had destroyed the entire company, 11 Panzer IIIs, 2 Panzer IVs in all, Below continued his advance and added 2 37mm anti-tank guns to the tally. By 7 AM, Ston was back under French control and would remain so for the rest of the day. The same day, the tank Requier would charge into a column of enemy infantry, its blood-stained tracks causing the German 64th Scherzen Regiment to panic and flee an entire sector of stone. For the first time, the Wehrmacht had encountered a tank that completely outmatched its own. So that's just a little bit of the story around Stone, which is, if you read it, it's you don't really hear much about the French army winning. Most of the time, it's sort of looked over, and the German forces sort of just roll across France and just basically do what they want. But it's not the case. If you do look, you do find these stories, and it's always interesting to see from the French army point of view, and get a bit of a story about some of their heroics. So yeah, I think Mark Felton done a good video on the Char B1 and Pierre Belot. So I checked that out if you're interested in actually hearing more about it. I think Belot was captured during World War II in 1940, and I think he escaped captivity, and I think he became something like maybe the leader of the Free French or something like that. I know he died in 1992, which she had a bit of a long life, a bit of an eventful life. So I hope you enjoyed that little bit of a story, something different around a Warlord kit. I like to do a little bit of research before I actually buy an army or do some modelling around that actual tank or vehicle. And when I found this story, which I've never heard before, because like I said, you usually only hear about the German Panzer races, Whitman and Otto and stuff like that. So something different. So yeah, so I can't wait to get these on the table, and I can't wait to have a bit of an early war light tank shootout. So thanks for listening, and stay safe and happy hobbying.